Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to give some feedback on Madi's speaking test. So let's jump straight in. Good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Okay, my full name is Madina Kasimova. You can call me Madi.
Okay, thank you, Madi. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Fergana, which is located in eastern part of Uzbekistan. So I love living here and
So in this question, where are you from? You don't need to say whether you like living there or not. That question will almost certainly come up soon. So, a little bit of extra information in part one, fine, but we don't need to go too far off script. I'm from town, which is located in the eastern part of Uzbekistan, is enough. That's fine.
the atmosphere is good. And I highly recommend you to visit our country, our city.
But what do you like most about? And remember, this is an interview. I mean, it's okay, right? The candidate says, "Oh, I highly recommend you to visit the city." Cool. Recommend somebody to do something. Okay. But I don't know if an interview about you should involve you suggesting that I should visit your place or that the examiner should visit your city. I mean, it's probably not a big problem. Nobody cares about it, but it's just a small, odd thing. But anyway, let's get into the real stuff. Your city.
What I like most about my favorite.
So, candidate repeats the question to herself to buy some time. Cool. That's fine to do as long as we don't overdo it. So, I think doing it like 2 or 3 times in the test, absolutely fine.
Kind of aspect of my city is our national park. I love walking here with my friends after my school lessons and maybe with my boyfriend. I love it. And people are also hospitable and
Feels a little bit like candidate is trying to activate some language. Like whenever I hear this word hospitable, I think, that's a word that I never ever hear in my everyday life. I just hear it either when I'm teaching or when I'm examining or something like this.
open-hearted. So
Open-hearted. Again, the candidate feels like the candidate's trying to activate language. I mean, those are fine words, people are hospitable, they're open-hearted. Nothing wrong with the words, it's just the delivery of the words. It feels a little bit like the candidate is trying a little bit too hard, perhaps, to activate some special IELTS vocab.
you won't get bored in our town.
Cool, you won't get bored, nice. And is your city or town popular with tourists?
Honestly, no, because my hometown, like not well known for some
My hometown is not well known, but okay.
kind of unique
But we do get well known for something, which is good collocation.
places. So that's why we don't have so many
A little bit of reaching for unique places. So a little bit of reaching, just a little bit.
tourists. Even I want to talk with some of them, but it's hard to find some tourists in our city, in my area where I live.
And pronunciation is super clean, super easy to understand. Connect aspects of connected speech, aspects of intonation, really, really like fantastic pronunciation. Is there anything you'd like to change about your town?
Yes, of course, I want to say that the weather, because it's unpredictable. Sometimes, like in winter, I always expect kind of snowy weather, but there is no snow, only the
If there's no snow, does that make the weather unpredictable? I don't know. Like unpredictable would mean like 1 minute it's snowing and the next minute it's sunny or something, no?
sun, like it's shining bright. But in summer is good enough because it's so hot. And in that moment, I want to also kind of snow, kind of cool weather.
Again, in that moment, I don't know if we can really think that summer is a moment, and also at that moment is probably the better collocation, but okay.
So the thing that I want to change is weather.
So candidate wraps up, so the thing that I want to change is the weather. Fine, okay. Let's talk about housework now. How often do you do housework?
Housework every day.
So now I feel at this part of the test, I feel like now the candidate is being herself. I think the first couple of questions, she was trying to activate some of this language, but I just the response to this question just feels like we are now speaking to human Medina and not to IELTS candidate Medina. And really, you want to be Human, not candidate. Candidates always try to provide irrelevant details, or candidates speak for too long, or candidates awkwardly try to include some strange bits of grammar or vocab. Candidates are not great English speakers. Candidates are people who've seen social media posts that say, in IELTS, don't use very hot, say absolutely scorching or something, right? Candidates use that type of language. Humans produce much better language, and I think from this question on, Medina does become more human. Do you do housework?
Housework every day, as of course,
So you see it now, she's laughing every day, and now I think she's really thinking about housework, not thinking about IELTS.
because my mother like always gives me kind of some duties to
Cool, she gives me some duties to
do
do.
at home, kind of household chores.
Household chores, amazing language. Household chores, beautiful. Very topic specific.
Because I'm responsible for them.
Cool, I'm responsible for. Cool, we get a nice collocation.
Every day I should wash dishes, do some laundry.
Love this, do some laundry. I should wash dishes, do some laundry. That use of some there is just great. It's I don't hear it a lot. A lot of people think some is only like a quantifier, that it means like two or three or four. No, some is used as an article sometimes, like instead of using we can use some with uncountable nouns, right? So like I watched a film, but I watched some television. Television is the uncountable noun here, the media. I watched some television. I do some laundry. That type of language for me is so much more impressive than people in my hometown are hospitable and open-hearted. I do some laundry, some household chores. Great language.
Or clean up, tidy up my rooms.
Tidy up my rooms. It's nice if you have more than one room. And is there any kind of housework that you really don't like doing?
Yes,
And again, notice the human reaction, right? Candidate has disappeared. Human Medina is here, and human Medina is a very good English user.
The thing that I don't like to like.
And now maybe she's become candid again. The thing that I don't like to, this is a cleft sentence, and we expect, even with high level students, we expect that sometimes when they attempt more complex grammar, that the language might break down a little bit. And cleft sentences, the thing that I dislike the most is that type of grammar we expect not to be so fluent.
Doing in my as a household chore is cleaning the toilet.
Yeah, cleaning the toilet really isn't very pleasant, but it has to be done. I know.
Because cleaning the toilet is kind of gives.
And this type of hesitation, I think it's perfectly suitable here. Cleaning the toilet is kind of, I would say that too, because we're talking about cleaning the toilet, and it's like can't always find the right word. So that type of hesitation, no problem here at all.
Me some uncomfortable feelings. Like I feel uncomfortable when I clean here.
Cool, uncomfortable feelings. I feel uncomfortable. Nice.
So I don't like it.
Let's talk about music then. What kind of music do you listen to?
I use it to listen.
I use it to listen classical music. I use it to listen. So this, when we talk about the past, when we use this, it's called a semi-modal verb. Used to. I used to listen to. I used to listen to classical music. I used to listen to classical music. Candidate says, I use it to listen classical music. It's, as a teacher, I really, I have big problems trying to get my students to remember listen to something, because a lot of people want to say listen something. I listen music. I listen classical music. In English, I listen to classical music. And candidate makes this mistake, but also this use it. I use it to listen. So noticeable. Let's talk about music then. What kind of music do you listen to? Just listen again.
I use it to listen classical music, but after before 2 months ago, I just started. I broke up that habit.
Broke that habit. You don't break up a habit. Broke that habit. I gave up, maybe.
Listening to music. I just leave it out, listening to music, but I
leave it out. So again, she's trying to use some phrasal verbs, right, to break up that habit, to leave it out, and they're kind of close, but not quite right. So it's not absolute precision with the vocab there.
use it to listen kind of
And the game would get that use it to listen, use it to listen, used to listen.
classical music, and it was amazing.
Okay, but it's not enough to say that something is amazing. We should say what was amazing about it, or and how, what I really liked most about classical music was just, the range of emotions. Like classical music, pieces in classical music tend to be very long. Like with pop songs, they're quite short and they have one tone. But if you listen to something like Beethoven, like it can start really slowly and then it kind of builds up to this crescendo and it has this huge climax and then it has like the fall down, and it's really nice to go on that like musical adventure. That's much better. Explaining what you like about it is better than just saying it's amazing. How do you find new music to listen to?
New music to listen to? Ah, okay.
So a couple of times she's done new music to listen to. Okay. I mean, it's not terrible, but just be careful. Try to be a more attentive listener to the questions. Of course, if you're online, sometimes the audio can be a little bit more difficult, and it's all right to repeat the question back to yourself a few times, but we don't want it to be a huge habit.
When I want to uh, change my renew
Little bit of a breakdown in fluency.
my, I mean, like playlist, I always go for a TikTok when I
Again, I always go for TikTok. I don't know about go for here. I always choose TikTok. I always go on TikTok or go to TikTok. I don't know about go for TikTok.
see some short videos. They just put some amazing videos. So in that moment, I just started searching for it. Give this video. I download this video and then just send it to the Shazam bot, and then it will download to me like and will send to me
Okay, she gets her idea across. I don't think this is like supernatural flow, but she gets her idea across pretty clearly.
that music.
And do you prefer listening to live music or recorded music?
Um, okay, both of them are not so interesting to me, but if I had the choice,
Yeah, both of them are not so interesting. It's okay. The most natural one here is neither of them is so interesting. We tend not to use both with negative sentences. And again, I don't want to say that's absolutely a mistake. It's just a tendency. And when we're looking at high levels in IELTS or high levels in English, we do think about how natural things sound. So, like, both of them don't like it is a bit strange. Neither of them likes it is better. Both of them are not interesting. Neither of them is interesting. So, both for positive, neither for negative.
chance to choose one of them, I will choose live music rather than recorded ones because
Okay, live music rather than, very natural, very good.
recorded ones are not so good.
What about recorded ones? A good attempt at a reference word here. Recorded ones. We can't use ones to replace music, right? Ones replaces plural nouns, but music is a singular, uncountable noun. So ones doesn't work here. Just restate the word music. Recorded music, live music.
Good in quality, but live music is good when you travel to somewhere, to some places where there is a live music. So enjoyable, kind of atmosphere changes.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Now, in this next part, all right, so thoughts on part one. Candid is very confident. I like the very natural human approach that she has, apart from the first couple of questions, perhaps. Vocab is on the money. It's not absolute precision with everything, but certainly shows a wide range of vocab to deal with those subjects, whether it's about people in her hometown or about housework. With housework, she was especially strong, or with music, maybe slightly less topic specific vocab with music, but certainly has the range to discuss them with a decent level of precision. Not absolutely precise, but very, very strong. Grammar, okay, no glaring mistakes, no huge mistakes with simple grammar. That's good. Pronunciation, very, very clear. Just a couple of issues that use it to just a small mistake there. Fluency in general very strong. A couple of lapses, a couple of small breakdowns, but candidate is very comfortable speaking at length. The pace of the speech is pretty good, and generally there is a very, very good flow. Sometimes that flow is broken up, but generally the flow is very strong. Let's go to part two and see what she has to do. She has to describe a time when she was late for something. course, this is past tense, past time, so you can activate a bunch of past tenses: simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous, past modals, reported speech, future in the past, sequence of tenses, all of that good past time stuff, which candidates never ever exploit. But let's see how the candidate does. Okay, so that's the end of your preparation time. To remind you, you will have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Of course. Okay. Now I want to talk about the time when I was late for our school festival.
Cool. Like that as an introduction, to the point, short, simple, effective.
So it was in the last day of our first term.
On the last day, not in the last day, but okay.
Me with our classmates decided.
No, my classmates and I, or me and my classmates, but not me with our classmates. Russian speakers make this mistake very often. Я со своей, I don't know, я со своими друзьями. Мы со своими друзьями, sorry. Мы со своими друзьями туда пошли or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. Not we with, or not me with, not, yeah, my friends and I, or me and my friends.
To participate in that festival. The festival was called like
Again, called. So we had that used earlier and now called. So we know in English these regular past forms with ed, it can have three different pronunciations, sometimes d, sometimes id, sometimes t, right? With called, we have it with a d, called, called with a d, watched with a t, wanted with an id. Candidate overpronounces this id, used to, and called. Just listen to that one more time.
like Gümüşler.
Sorry.
Our first term, me with our classmates decided to participate in that festival. The festival was called like Gümüşler, and I was so excited, and I was looking forward to that festival.
Cool. I was looking forward to that festival. Really good. Past continuous here with looking forward. Nice. And with look forward to. All good stuff.
And we was a one team, like we were a one team with
Yeah, we were one team. Is okay. We were on the same team, perhaps.
our classmates, and our team was called
Again, get that called.
like Madina, because I was the leader of that team. And we
Hitting all of these past tenses. Good stuff.
prepared a lot of things, like we also decorated that scene where we will dance and sing.
So we decorated that scene. I think she means stage. And again, yeah, I think she means stage here. And not where we will dance, but where we would dance. So that future in the past. We decorated that scene where we would dance, not will dance.
And firstly, everything was fine.
Good signposting. Firstly, everything was fine, and this helps to build up to this contrast that later something is going to be bad. So good rhetoric there, good style.
Everything was flowing smoothly, and in
Nice adverb.
that day of our participation, before that, I was late because of traffic, because I was stuck in a traffic jam.
Cool. I was stuck in a traffic jam. Very nice.
I had a phone with myself, with me.
I had a phone. It's fine. I had a phone on me is perhaps common. With me, maybe it's okay.
In my bag, but it was mute, like with no volume. Like
Again, it was on mute.
they called me, but I didn't answer it. When I came, my group mates like yelled at me, like, "Are you crazy?" We
Yield or yelled? Shouted is fine. They told me off. They shouted at me. The candidate is trying to say yelled at me, but it comes out as yield. So there is a small pronunciation mistake. And that type of mistake kind of puts a minor strain on the listener. Listeners like yield? Yelled. Because we have a word yield. It means to stop. It's kind of an old-fashioned or an academic word to yield. Often you use it for horses or something. Yeah.
You are so late, and you are the leader of our group. So in that moment, I felt guilty. I also like
It feels a little bit like guilty, right? Should be guilty. That you is silent. It's not guilty, but guilty.
I felt guilty.
Just hear a little bit guilty. Just a minor
I
mispronunciation.
also like blamed the taxi driver
Cool. Blamed the taxi driver. Good stuff.
and the traffic because in that time
Again, at that time, at that time, at that time, not in that time, in that time, in that time.
there was no electricity in the town, in the entire town. So that's why I was late. And I explained it that
Strange. And again, we get that explained. So we get called, used, explained. It should be explained.
situation where why I was late. They understand, but the direct
They understand? Past? They understand?
why I was late. They understand, but the director of our school
And again, this is a cultural thing. I know in some countries the top person in the school is the director. Of course, in American English, it's the principal. In British English, it's the head teacher, but not director of a school. Sounds a little bit strange in English.
didn't. But in the end, we just
Cool. And again, we get that signposting language, which does create this sense of progress, right? At first, in the end. So it really helps to show where we are. So that signposting language does help to create that sense of progress.
we won and got the third place.
Okay, thank you. Don't know how you won and got the third place. That seems like a contradiction, but okay. I guess we don't have time to go into it. Thoughts on part two? Again, candidates' fluency is generally good with some breakdowns. Again, pronunciation is very, very clear in spite of this systemic mistake with this ed ending, which is a little bit of a problem. Grammar just fell down a little bit where like they understand, or it's the place where we will do it. It's like, would I really expect a C1 to make those kinds of mistakes? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes C1s do make those kinds of mistakes. But they should be rare. So really, we don't want too many more of those very basic mistakes. Two, absolutely fine. But if we get to something like 5 or 6 simple grammar mistakes, that's the point where you say like, yeah, probably not band 7 for grammar. But we'll see how she does in part 3. At the moment, she's okay. Vocab again, strong. Vocab is very strong, not perfect, not absolutely precise, but very, very strong. Yeah, let's get to part 3. All right, so you've been talking about a time when you were late for something. Let's talk about being on time now. How important is it in your country to be on time?
It's really pivotal to be on a time.
Pivotal. Not pivotal, but pivotal. It's really pivotal to be on time. Not on a time, but just on time. Thank you. All right, so you've been talking about a time when you were late for something. Let's talk about being on time now. How important is it in your country to be on time?
It's really pivotal to be on a time because to be punctual, like
Punctual. Punctual. So there's no N at the end. It's not punctual, but it's punctual.
everyone needs to be like that, not
Hitting that S, everyone needs, really like that. Very easy to miss that. Everyone needs to be on time. Cool.
only in my country. So there are some occasions that a person should be responsible for not being late.
Cool. Should be responsible for not being late. Nice use of gerund. Good.
The first of all, the leaders like me and the directors and also the teachers should not be late for their work.
Cool, but just be careful. We're talking about people in your country in general, not just about you and the people in your group. So remember, part 3 should be, we should widen that scope, not just you and the people you know, but people in general.
For their responsibilities.
And what might happen if somebody is often late for something?
What happens sometimes, like me, I will take myself as
Again, just be careful in part 3. We don't want to give ourselves, sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes, in this case, I think it is okay. If you are someone who's always late, of course you can talk about yourself. But remember, a common problem that B1 users of English have is that they are unable to widen that scope. They find it very difficult to speak about general things, other people, and they find it much easier to speak about themselves, what they do. And so sometimes when candidates rely in part 3 on giving examples related to themselves, sometimes that can be a sign that the user finds it difficult to speak generally.
An example, they will yell at me.
And the ability to speak about unfamiliar, wider topics, not just about ourselves, that is something, that B2s and C1s are expected to be able to do.
The colleagues will yell at that person.
Again, yell. Again, candidate seems to be struggling with this word yell. I don't think she's very comfortable using it. I don't think she's acquired this bit of vocab fully. And so I would recommend, avoiding taking risks too much with language. If you're not comfortable with yell, don't use it. Use shout, scream. If you are comfortable with yell, then use it. But, get it right. Yell at somebody, to yell at somebody.
And also, they will get some punishment from their director, from the people around them. That,
and again, this is about what will happen if she said that being on time is pivotal for people in her country. Now I'm asking what might happen if someone is often late, but she's only really speaking about people in her school.
Work together, but anyway, they can manage to be on a time. Especially me, like I always late to the school, but
I always late. I'm always late. I'm always late. Late is an adjective in English.
Teachers always say, like, if you wake up early, a bit early, you will be on time. So
again, personal anecdotes, right? Her teachers. We want to widen that scope.
We should manage it.
Okay, this might be a difficult question, but what other advice would you give to a person who is always late?
Firstly, okay, the person should plan his day beforehand.
Cool, just be careful. The person should plan their day. I know person is singular, but because it's not male or female, then a person should plan their day, not his day.
Like, should schedule his day. Like, I will be here on this time and on this time. And the
cool, nice paraphrasing to develop and explain exactly what she means. Very good.
person should have some sense of discipline. Like, the person should
good, should have some sense of discipline. Again, I really, really like that as a natural bit of language. A person should have some sense of discipline. Extremely natural. Very good stuff.
be disciplined and flexible for.
And again, should be disciplined. Again, she has that ed, disciplined. It should be disciplined. A person should be disciplined. Disciplined, not nid.
Everything. Like, if there is a traffic jam, that leave out the taxi, just run to that.
Not leave out, but leave the taxi, or get out of the taxi, but not leave out the taxi. So again, not 100% precise, but meaning is clear.
Work, or that school, or that festival, special occasion. Did you?
Some people say that young people are less punctual than older generations. Do you agree with that? Speak in general. Please speak in general.
Yes, of course, because I don't think I also.
So again, great intonation. I often find people who are kind of more expressive with their face, people who smile more, they tend to have better intonation. And the people that come into the test like super nervous or with a fearful look on their face, they tend to have much less intonation. So really, it's very instructive how you can see, Madina's positivity really has a good effect on her pronunciation.
Like, I will exemplify myself because I always late for something, and
again, she's speaking about herself, and we don't want this in part 3, and we have that mistake again, I always late. So now it seems to be a systematic mistake, not a slip. Once that candidate makes the same mistake a couple of times, then I think, okay, she just thinks that late is a verb, not an adjective, but okay.
Friends also do that because
my friends also do that. Late is not something you do. It's something you are.
Teenagers, because of our phones, we are just scrolling around, like what's going on, and we are not so disciplined and so kind of punctual like older people, because older.
Okay, we get this repetition of disciplined and punctual. Both of them have pronunciation mistakes, unfortunately.
People have vast experience of being late.
Cool, vast experience of something, very nice.
So that's why
I don't really see how that makes them better at being on time. Older people have vast experience of being late. I mean, you might need to explain that because they were late so much in the past. They've learned from that experience and now they're able to be more punctual. That would explain things a bit more clearly.
I agree with that opinion that younger are like less responsible, like for their works, for their tasks, like that they have.
You mentioned that young people spend a lot of time kind of scrolling through social media. Can you think of any ways where technology can help us to be on time?
To be on time,
To be on time. Again, we don't want too much repetition of the question, but okay.
yes, of course, like it helps us first of all to get in touch. Like when you are late for something, you can say like person can say like I'm being late, so
Not I'm being late, but if we want to say like right now I'm running late, that's the correct term. I'm running late.
say to him or to her that I'm being late, explain to her my situation. So in that moment, it's like technologies like phones or like a handful of devices, kind of device.
Handful device? I think she means handy. She's between those two words, handy and useful. Now, handy and useful mean the same thing, but she came up with it's a handful device. So a bit of a slip.
It will help us in these kind of situations, but it's
Candidate speaks very quickly, but the speed of her speech, it's not so fast that I can't understand what she's saying. So it's like a good flow, which is fast.
can also improve our daily life because when we are just set an alarm like for something,
Cool. Set an alarm again. Good collocation.
something important, like with time, like our alarm clock, like that, it also helps us every day.
Okay, cool. It just seems like it coming towards the end of her answer there just ran out of steam a little bit. I wasn't sure where she was going to go, and then she just kind of stops dead. But okay. And what kind of things should people really never be late for?
Never be late for.
Again, we get that repetition of the phrase.
But okay, let me think.
Cool. I love that she's not panicking. Sometimes we need to take a moment to think. Sometimes an idea doesn't immediately come to mind. Like I was thinking of things like funerals or weddings, or maybe if you're taking a flight, if you're going to the airport, those are things you should never be late for. Those ideas come to my mind quite quickly, but I'm sure there are some questions where I would also need to just take a few moments to think about it, and it's okay to do that.
Late before. Okay. In my opinion, there are some times that you person should not be late, and
Fluency is breaking down a little.
these situations include kind of like parties, some special parties where this, that there is a special cake that will be cut like
That will be cut. Third form of cut is cut. Cut, cut, cut. Hit, hit, hit. Put, put, put.
after some time, after gathering a lot of guests like that you invited. In that moment,
I don't know what she's talking about. A special party where there's going to be a cake that's going to be cut.
we should be responsible for our invitation.
Again, candidates reusing this responsible for, which now I think this is like the fourth or the fifth time. So, the vocab's been super strong, but I'm just worried there is a little bit too much repetition of that. Like disciplined, we had a few times. Responsible for, we've had many times.
Like the person invited you, so you should plan beforehand. Like
Beforehand is a great bit of vocab that's just thrown in there. You should plan beforehand. So nice.
I should buy something, and I will get a taxi in that time, and then I will attend this party.
Okay, so again, she's going to like advice on how not to be late, which isn't really the question. The question is how, what are some things that you should never be late for?
With someone and on that time.
Thank you. That is the end of the test. Okay, so let's get into some marks. Okay, not the easiest one to mark. Fluency and coherence, I'm going to go with a band 7. So, the candidate speaks at length with a great deal of comfort. Really don't feel like she's uncomfortable when she's speaking at length. Really, she can do it no problem. She develops pretty well on almost all of her answers, in spite of some small lapses in coherence. Sometimes she maybe just drifts off topic a little bit, or maybe a small idea, just feel like, maybe you could explain that slightly better at times. There are also maybe a few cases where the fluency breaks up and breaks down, but in general, the flow and pace of speech is comfortable. So I do think there is enough there for Band 7. Band 7 fluency, C1 fluency, absolutely. Sorry, just have a bit of a scratchy throat. Lexical resource, I'm really torn between the 7 and the 8 here. I do think she has enough for the 8, but just for that repetition a little bit, I'm going to pull it down to a 7. So, oh, no, no, I'm going to push it up to an 8, actually. I'm going to be a little bit generous. Always, if I'm in doubt between a 7 and an 8 or a 6 and a 7, if I'm in doubt, I always go for the higher mark. So, the candidate has a really good range of vocab. She can speak about a variety of topics and use very natural topic-specific language. Cool. There isn't 100% precision, especially with phrasal verbs. So really be careful with those phrasal verbs, like to break up or to get out or leave out, I think you used. A couple of those phrasal verbs are just not quite hitting the mark. But I do think you have enough lexical resource for an 8. Something else I wanted to mention about fluency and coherence is, I'll mention that later. But I do think she has enough for 7 and 8. Grammatical range and accuracy. Initially, I thought probably it's a 6, but I do think there is enough in there for a 7. I think she does. There is evidence to say that the candidate maintains, or let's say generally maintains good control of simple structures. There are some mistakes. There were some mistakes of understand instead of understood, or late instead of be late, or something like this, but I really think those were minor. In general, everybody needs things like this. Reliably, she produced accurate grammar with simple structures. She also attempts more complex structures with different levels of success, shall we say. Mistakes do not impede understanding. Cool. So I do think there is enough in her grammar for that 7, even that, like, I was looking forward to something. Good stuff. Pronunciation, again, I'm going to go with a 7, not quite an 8. Don't think she's far away from the 8. The candidate maintains good intonation throughout the test, and it is generally easy to understand her speech, in spite of a few lapses. Pivotal, punctual, yell. So there are a few words which are mispronounced, which is like, don't think it puts a big strain, but it, some of the things maybe just make you have to think, oh, she means pivotal, or oh, she means yell, or something like that. Chunking, the way that you link words together, or group words together, rather. Chunking is generally appropriate. And the candidate shows some competence, not full, but some competence in connected speech. There were some things like that, use it to listen, which wasn't very connected, but there is some connected speech in there. And I think she has elements of a band 8, elements of a band 6. And so when you have that pronunciation which comes out as a band 7. It's like the people who wrote the band descriptors were too lazy and didn't want to write 7. So they just say, oh, parts of band 8 and parts of band 6. I think, C1 pronunciation for sure. I have no doubts about that. Although there are some problems with id. So a few points, areas of improvement. I'll say be careful with your use of phrasal verbs and other vocab. You don't need to take, I would say, you don't need to take unnecessary risks. If you're not sure if the piece of vocab is correct, avoid it. Use something simpler. You have enough good vocab that, you don't always need to be taking risks with that vocab. Be sure not to speak too personally in part 3. There are some examiners that really won't like it if you're using yourself as an example all the time in part 3. Part 3 is supposed to speak in a more general way, so try not to speak about yourself too much in part 3. And also be very careful. Go away and study. Be careful with the id endings. Even if you have to sit and do a pronunciation task or a listen task and match the words with the sounds, like where you have things like duh, t, and id, and then you have like a bunch of verbs like decided, and you put it into the right category. Decided, you put it into category id, and watched, you put it into category t, or called, and you put it into category duh. If you want to do some of that work, it might help, because at the moment you are overusing this id for a lot of your ed verbs. You're using called, prepared, disciplined, and you really, really have to be careful with that. And I do think you can get to pronunciation 8. I do think you can have vocab 8, and I've given you band 7, but strong band 7, 7.25. I think you can get lexical resource 8. I think you can get pronunciation 8. And that would give you a score of 7.5 then. So for me, your overall score for this test, your overall score puts you at 7.0, which is C1, which is amazing. Really, for someone your age to get to that level of C1, to be such a confident and positive speaker, it's really, really amazing. Good job. Keep it up, and best of luck in the test. Hope you get the 7 in the test, or the 7.5 even. That would be great. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. Overall, band 7. Some people in the comments section were a little bit harsh. I felt some people gave her like a 6. If you gave her a 6.5, then we are like within tolerance. We are within touching distance. That's okay. For me, she is stronger than that. She is a clear C1, and not just thinking about the band descriptors, but just thinking about in general of all of the students that I've had, I would certainly put her among those C1s. She is higher than B2. Yeah, but of course, if you disagree with anything that I say, let me know in the comments. If you'd like your own free practice speaking test with feedback, or if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, you can request this on my Telegram channel. A link to that channel is given in the description below. But I will leave it there for now. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.